Oh, thank goodness. I've been wondering if I had to cancel the meeting. Hillary, you're on mute, by the way.
How's that?
That's much better.
Great. Okay.
We're supposed to have Carol and Richard, but everyone seems to be late today.
I'm on. Can you
Oh,
see
there
me?
you are.
I'm on.
Yay.
Okay. We're still waiting for Richard.
Okay.
We don't have a quorum. Sorry, Carol, you're not showing up in my,
I know, and I'm
there we go.
and I can't see everyone. Let's see if I can switch that. Ah, there we go. Hi.
Hi. I hope Richard hasn't forgotten. We have 4 attendees.
Because we, yeah,
the
because we need a
audience right
quorum.
Yeah,
Do we send him a text? Do we have his number?
I just sent an email. I don't have Richard's textable phone number.
Okay.
I sent an email to all of you saying meeting starts in 2 minutes, and that was 5 minutes ago.
Do you know if Jared Polsky or the owners will be attending, or you don't know yet, or?
In the audience right now is Elizabeth Rohr, who I believe is from Polsky Prostein Architects, Aaron
Okay.
Foote, and Spencer and Susie Doyle, the property owners.
Okay.
I'm going to email Richard again.
That would be unfortunate.
We have another person attending by phone as well, an attendee. Hillary, you don't happen to have Richard's phone number, do you?
I don't think I do. Let me look in past emails.
That's a good idea.
And Lelia and Sonia weren't planning to make it, right?
No, they were out of town. That's why I was chasing you all down to make sure you're all in on this.
Yeah.
He had trouble getting in last time. I wonder if he's having trouble again.
Yeah, I remember that.
I think. No.
Oh, wait a minute. There's something. It says Kristen, Carol, Hillary, Lelia. Oh, no, sorry. That was Sonia. Sorry, I'm reading the wrong person.
You know, my file at home back at the office with the phone numbers, we don't have any admin staff now to produce our inner office phone lists anymore. We just don't get them. I don't have the easy to access documents anymore. Everything's completely changed since the last time it was done.
You know, I'm not seeing anything in his emails as far as a phone number, a tag. You know, sometimes people put all of their address, return address information, but I don't see anything like that for him.
Okay.
I'll keep looking. So
Well, I'm going to send him my invite just in case he's struggling and he hasn't gotten a hold of us to let us know. I can't see. Keeps competing with Zoom. There we go.
Historic Studio.
I'm going to go offline for a minute to see if anything was in my packet that I got as a new member.
Okay.
I don't think so. Okay, I just sent him my invite with a message saying, in case you're having trouble.
Here's a phone number. Do you have a phone handy, Kristen, or do you want me to
We're
call?
broadcasting, so you mean, is it his work number?
It's from his website.
Okay,
So it would be public information.
okay.
415
Mhm,
388 3030.
okay. Hey, Rich, it's Kristen. We have a meeting going on now and we're waiting for our quorum. Okay. Okay, bye. Said he'll be here in 2 minutes. He's running late.
Good. Okay.
Okay. So, anybody got any new news? Keeping in mind, this is a public meeting.
How'd the town do in the rains?
Exactly. Good
Pretty
question.
good. I haven't heard of any catastrophes other than it fried some of our new electrical door key locks and everything.
Mhm.
Oh,
We
wow.
can't get in and out of the building at certain points, Public Works and City Hall. So they swapped out ones that were still working at Public Works on City Hall so we can manage. And they're gonna get new ones for Public Works. So other than that, I have, nothing fell down of great note. There has been, I mean, back in what is it, 88 or so, 92, we had some major storms that put houses out in the street. They were much more sustained though, I think.
Wow.
That was quite a storm.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was
I was
impressive.
driving back from, I went to visit my daughter. She's going to college in Santa Barbara. And I was driving back with my son. And it was really a question like, well, do we keep going or do we pull over and get a hotel? 'Cause
Yeah.
it was, 280 was crazy. I saw several cars that had spun out by the side of the road. And one car was stopped in the middle of the highway, just embedded in a puddle, in the
Wow.
middle of 280.
Wow.
So it's crazy.
That's
Did you guys
crazy.
have power or did anybody lose power?
I lost power for a while on Sunday, but I came back.
I lost power Sunday too.
Yeah. Yeah, here too. Oh, wow. But Kristen, you live, I guess I can't say, right? Because of the public forum, but so my neighbor, I mean, not all of Larkspur lost power, right?
Correct.
I don't know how much of Larkspur lost power. Only parts of my area did as well. I live in San Anselmo and my son, who's across Sir Francis Drake from us, did not while we did. So,
Oh, interesting.
depended. Yeah.
Well, you at
So I
least
think we can start now.
Hello, everyone. Sorry I'm late.
Hi, Rich.
Hey, I'm seeing you, but I'm not seeing, let's see who's here. I'm only seeing you, Hillary.
Try clicking, you can do multi panes. If you click on put your cursor on your view of yourself and then click on those little icons.
Well,
that
that's
come
it.
up.
I don't see myself. I just see your agenda screen.
Oh, interesting.
You might be able to see it at the top right-hand side. It says view usually.
And there's these little bubbles, these little blue bubbles with,
I'm seeing view. Let's try gallery. Here we go. Okay, I see you.
Okay,
Hi.
so
All
our
right.
chair should call us to order.
okay, I'm calling the meeting to order at 5:41. Let's have roll call.
Chair Culhane,
Present.
Board Member Goldberg,
Present.
Board Member Storick,
Present.
and let the record show that Board Member Gallant and Langto are both absent.
Great. Okay. So I guess we would probably start off with a, is it the staff report?
Well, let's see first if there's any public comment.
Okay. And these are on matters that are not on the agenda.
Correct. So anyone who has public comment on a matter not on the agenda tonight. I see one hand, but I just want to make sure you understand this is for matters not on the agenda. So I'm going to allow phone number 415-924-1402 to speak. You need to unmute yourself. You're still muted on my system. I'm seeing a red line through your phone. So since the individual who wishes, oh, here we go. Wait, I think they hung up.
Yep.
They disappeared off my screen. So let's move forward, and if they come back, we can allow them to talk
Okay.
when they come back. Okay, so planning oral report. We are still struggling to hire additional staffing. The planning department continues to be only partially manned by myself and the planning director, who unfortunately is still working on the general plan update and all the new housing element information and the new housing laws that keep coming in. So we're doing our best to keep up with the workload. I have a consulting planner, Lorraine Weiss, who's been taking some of the project planning off my hands at least. We will continue to advertise and hopefully be able to hire somebody by the beginning of next year. At this rate, I don't anticipate we're going to hire anyone by Christmas. The city council had a meeting last week regarding the city hall. They had previously discussed its condition and all the work that would be required to bring it up to modern standards and make it ADA accessible appropriately, and replace the current elevator, which can't fit a standard gurney. If they ever had to take anyone out, they'd have to take them down the stairs. There's a lot of things that would have to be updated. Seismic update. Then this last week, the staff provided council with some options, including relocating city hall services either to temporary buildings or to office buildings somewhere else in town, and or rebuilding or building modular buildings at the community facility site along with the library in order to house us in more modern and safe standards while they decide what to do with City Hall. And the use of City Hall in the future has not even been discussed yet. So the long and the short of it was that the council appears interested in pursuing relocating city services all to the community facilities parcel, and gave Public Works and the city manager direction to continue to pursue investigating the costs of building new structures there for our needs, combined with the library. And the reason they want to combine it with the library is there are some grants available to the library that would help fund some of these things, including a shared community hearing room and things like that, that the library would use. So then the grant money can be used to help build that as well. So it looks like in the future, not immediate, city services will move over to that site. And in the interim, once they make a decision on what to do in terms of housing staff and services, they will start investigating how best to utilize City Hall in another capacity. And that could be a range of things, including selling it, entering into a partnership to reuse it as a mixed use or residential use site. Nobody has at this point ever considered demolishing the building. There is an understanding it's historic and on the National Register. So that's where we are at the moment. And if you're interested in watching that meeting and hearing all the information that was provided, some of the numbers are pretty big in terms of retrofitting City Hall. So that gave the council a lot of reason to think about moving us. But if you want to watch the video, you can go to the city's webpage. And when you go to quick links under agendas, minutes, and public notices, they give you a meeting archive that you can watch. Pick whichever meeting you want to watch that's available on there. And the most recent one would be at the top. It'll take you to a YouTube page where they broadcast all the meetings, the past meetings. Okay, that's it for staff.
Thank you. All right. So I think it's time to move on to public hearing item number 1. Did you want to describe that, Kristen?
Well, I think we'll just kind of go through what it says on the agenda. The applicants are requesting that the Heritage Board recommend the City Council delist the structure at 20 Monte Vista from the Historic Resources Inventory. And their reasons are varied, including that the building itself has undergone such neglect in the past that there's a substantial amount of work it needs to be able to make it safe and modernize it. And then it needs a bit of expansion in order to accommodate their growing family and modern conveniences. So, and their preferred choice, of course, would be to reconsider a whole new residence there, as opposed to trying to maintain this existing older style building. To support or make sure that delisting was a possibility, they hired Stacy DeShazo, a historic architect or historian, who evaluated the building in detail and concluded that it did not meet our current evaluation standards for inclusion on the inventory. I provided all this information and the original evaluation reports by Dan Peterson to our historic architect, and she did visit the site and review everything, and she concurred with the current report by Stacy DeShazo and agrees that the building probably isn't really qualified to be on the inventory, as cute as it is. So we have recommended that the board support the applicant's request to be delisted.
Okay, and that's the purpose of our meeting today,
Right.
is to provide a recommendation as to whether or not this property, 20 Monte Vista, should be delisted.
Right. So we have the applicants in the audience, including the architect and the property owners. Would you like to hear from somebody?
Yes, we would like to hear from them.
Okay, either one of you, if you could raise your hand, I can allow you to speak. All right, we're gonna hear from Spencer and Susie Doyle. And you need to unmute yourself.
And I don't think we're able to share a video, so I think you can just hear us, yes?
Yeah,
I can, do you want me to move them to panelists so you can see them?
yeah,
Sure.
that would be great.
Okay. There we go. Okay, so you need to unmute yourself and turn on your camera.
Not your first rodeo, huh?
There we go.
Hi. We are here at 20 Monte Vista. It's nice to meet all of you. This is Susie. And we moved to Larkspur in 2014 when Susie was pregnant with our first, and we've since had our second. And we've really loved living here. So thanks for all the good work you do. One of our biggest opportunities came when, just this weekend, the house sprung 12 leaks, not just through the roof, but through the walls, and the basement flooded. So I think we're coming to you more out of just a kind of our lifestyle is being impacted by just weather storms. And granted, this was quite a storm. But it really reminded us of the fact that we're not really coming to you out of the desire to change the look and feel of the neighborhood or the property in any way. We're just of the opinion that this structure itself is kind of past the point of no return, and really needs to be updated and modernized. And when we looked at it with our architect, who is here with us, Jared and Elizabeth are representing, we did actually initially start off on the path of, trying to look at a potential design that would be just a modification of what's currently here. And it just, again, like I said, it's kind of past the point of no return. It's a building that needs to be kind of fundamentally changed and altered. And so with that, we're coming to you with the idea to delist so that we can make those changes. But it is our firm intent to stay true to the design of the neighborhood as we do our work, and really respect the heritage that is here in this neighborhood. And that's pretty much the story. If there are any questions for us or our architect team.
You mentioned that your firm intent is to stay true to the design of the neighborhood. I wonder, obviously we're not looking at what your plans are going to be post potential delisting, but I'm wondering how much your intent would be to stay true to the design of the house itself.
Yeah. The bungalow style is something we love. We call it a cottage, not a bungalow, but I think it's officially classified as a bungalow. Every time we look at it, we think this is the best looking little home we could have, and we love it. So I'll let Jared speak to that, but in our conversations with him, we have emphasized already, as much as we can stay true to the aesthetic of a bungalow, we think it plays very, very well in this corner lot that we're in, because we really want the street facing piece of which is the entire property, but really that corner on Monte Vista, we want that to be the same welcoming feel that exists today. That corner, Mrs. Hurley, who we bought it from, used to sit out on that porch. So we want to include the neighborhood in the design, and the bungalow feel plays to that. We sit out on the porch all the time out there, and make it inclusive of the neighborhood in the way that the aesthetic that exists today furthers that.
Does
that answer your question?
Has anyone done an actual contractor's estimate of what it would take to restore the building?
We've not done that specifically, no. Do you want to comment on that, Jared?
I've just allowed you to talk, Elizabeth, or Jared, whoever this is, and you need to, there we go.
Yeah, so I think Kristen, Jared, he can hear, he's on his phone.
Is that who we lost?
Well, no, I think he's still on, but he's been trying to get in and hasn't been able to, I don't know if he's in the waiting room. Or if there's another,
We're broadcasting, there should be no problem getting in if he's using the links on the agenda.
Yeah, is there another attendee on a phone right now?
There's two attendings on phones right now, 415-573-0156 or 1156.
Yes, that's him.
415-730-1156.
That's him. If you wouldn't mind, he can't raise his hand on his
Okay.
phone, so.
Jared, I've allowed you to talk, but you're showing that your mute is on or something. It's got a red line through a phone. But in the interim, Elizabeth, if there's anything you want to address.
Yeah, I think Spencer has brought up a lot of the points that similar to what the report shows, that it's not a classic example of a bungalow, and I think it's just in bad shape, and our intention would definitely be to keep with a very traditional style and fitting with the neighborhood in order to make it more, like Kristen said, more modern spaces for the family, the growing family and that kind of thing, but still be true to the neighborhood and the style of Larkspur.
But no one has estimated what it might take to restore the building to good
We
use.
did not, no, we haven't done that estimate.
I guess my concern here is the precedent for delisting a historic building that's listed that appears to be in good shape. We don't know the extent of the damage or the rot in the building. As I see, the questions about authenticity are attributed to the 5 windows that were added at some time. How long ago was that done?
I'd have to look at the report again to.
Yeah.
I had it up.
Because one of the considerations for listing are that it is of an architectural style that's attributable to a historic period, which it is. That's my concern. I mean, the fact that it's not a pristine example of California bungalow, and you do quote in your report, the lack of handcrafted stone and woodwork and tapered columns, all of which are part of the style. But it is a handsome California bungalow. And I think if the criteria for delisting is what looks to be kind of thin to me, stands, that opens a precedent. I can see a number of buildings applying for delisting. And why, for example, is this not a commonly identified style, which is one of the requirements?
Is this a question for us?
Well, it's a question for Elizabeth or you, yes. Or Jared.
Yeah,
The,
sorry. Oh.
Yeah. So is the question that we went through a process where we took the city standards for historical listing and we matched it up in this historic report that was presented to the city. The city then, I believe the scoring methodology used to assess historical is we scored a 50 out of 100 previously, and then the new
Previously.
number was revised to 35 out of 100. For
Which does
specific,
not qualify for inclusion on the inventory, by the way. The
Right.
Heritage Board agreed that those listings would be for buildings that rated 50 points or more and an A or B only. I'm trying to find Jerry's newest evaluation.
Yeah,
We have
right
a
here.
report,
There it
Kristen,
is.
do we have a report from Jerry?
This is her most recent evaluation. Can
One
everybody see
page.
that?
Well, I meant more of a narrative from her.
No, she did not provide it. She was extremely busy during the time we were going through this, and she thought this was sufficient because she didn't determine that it was of enough value to maintain on the inventory. her response here is style is quite common and numerous examples exist within this neighborhood. Nothing distinguishing about this particular example and not related to any family or historic significance.
Kristen, is there anyone in the waiting room? I'm just Jared's trying to, he can't unmute himself and on his phone, I'm not sure, but
I
yeah,
don't
and I
have a
think
waiting
he's-
room. I have attendees and panelists.
okay. And yeah, I mean, he just noted that it's not just about it like being in bad shape, but that like Jerry's noting in her report by the score, even if she doesn't have like a narrative description, that it lacks historic value based on the criteria of the scoring and that kind of thing.
So
Well, yeah.
one of the qualifications is it an architectural style attributable to a historic period? Is it not? I mean, I can look at it and I can pretty much tell you when it was built, but it is a style. It's a known style.
Yeah, and I think she took that into account. If you scroll down a little bit, that is scored in her evaluation of it. Style right there, architectural significance, it's scored a 10.
Yeah, I don't. I guess I don't see it.
It's the last page of the packet. It's just a one-page report. I just want to add something too, that I just pointing out the significance of when we do delist a property. You know, we do rely on these evaluations, but we also have to consider the ramifications of what happens when it loses its protection. And I'm sensing, I mean, it hasn't been said outright, but I found reference in DeShazo's report here about a demolition. So I think that that kind of ups the concern a little bit for me on the board. And so we want to make sure that we are moving forward with the knowledge that this house could be raised. So.
Yeah, I think that is clearly your intent, is it not, Spencer?
Yes, we want to be transparent about that.
Yeah.
That's why we're coming to you. It's not, we love the look of the house, right? But again, it's not so much the look, it's the safety, the asbestos. It's beat up, right? And it's more about the safety of our children, right? My wife
Right.
asked me this morning if all the water that was coming through the walls could pose an electrical problem, right? I have an old friend that told me, you know, there's certain times when you own a boat that people let boats go to the past and point of no repair, and you got to scuttle the boat. But what we are pledging to you is that we're not intending to build something that is out of character and would even, I mean, I've said to Jared, if we can copy bungalow style aesthetic in our design, let's go for it. Let's keep it. Bay windows, the same types of windows that are there, right? You know, low profile, the way the cottage look feels like in Marin, like make it a part, make it something that is moving forward and an example of a classic or modern bungalow look that retains that feel and that aesthetic. That's our intent. So that hopefully that provides some color on. It's more about just the safety of the structure and how far gone the structure is. When we bought the structure, I don't know if you read my cover letter. When we bought the home, the inspection report said the only thing that's actually functioning is the foundation. Everything else is broken. That was in 2014.
Have you done improvements between then and now?
We've done as superficial improvements as one can do to make it safe. Paint. I mean, I think you could see, look at the pictures and the before and after we included to show you you know, how much we do care about making it look like a classic. I don't know if you could show the pictures before and after to the group, but when we took it over, it didn't look good and it was beat up. Now it looks really great. It's got, you know, a picket fence and a new paint job, but it's still the same fundamental. We haven't done anything fundamental to it because it's not worth doing financially.
Well, there's a lot of old houses in Larkspur. It's true. And I think several, you know, it kind of comes with the territory, you know, when you buy an old property, especially one that's been with a single owner for so many decades. There's going to be a lot of work to that property. And I understand safety is an important issue. I just think it's interesting, as Rich mentioned, that you didn't even consider you know, repairing the existing house or bringing it more up to your safety standards.
Well, it's not that we didn't consider it. I didn't commission a study on that. We actually, the first 6 months of working with Jared were in the attempt to remodel. At that point, we looked at the remodel, and the remodel was not going to meet the requirements we had for the build. And it was going to cost a lot more potentially because of the current state. We're basically going to replace the whole thing anyway. So not only did it not meet what we needed to build for the expanding family, the footprint, the only thing that wouldn't be touched would be that foundation. So at that point, the team, all of us decided, let's pivot and look at rebuilding from scratch, which is why we wanted to come from you.
Requirement. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
I think instead of trying to determine whether or not they might build something you like that would be as appropriate in the future, we just need to focus on the scoring system that we have and whether or not this building really should be listed on the inventory based on the criteria the Heritage Board adopted when the inventory was updated in 2008. I think everybody knows if you really want to, you can remodel a home that has been damaged. There's no question. But when you, and in fact, the historic architect here has 0 points for desecration. So she sees that it can be accomplished as well, may not be the preference of the property owner. But I think the real question here is, in terms of the value of this particular resource and its architectural integrity, is it really justified to be on the inventory? That's the decision you have to make, because that is the basic reasoning for this home to even be on, is strictly its architectural integrity. There isn't any real important historic background with regard to who lived there, who built it. Okay.
Yeah.
Correct.
And I do see that it's been downscored. I mean, it was borderline in 2008 with a score of 50.
Yeah, I guess I wish we're kind of handicapped not having some idea of what it might cost to do this, but also having Jerry present to explain a little more the scoring that she's given it.
I sent out an email last week asking if the board would like Jerry present and was told that it probably wouldn't be necessary. So, sorry. I didn't hear from you, Rich, but I heard from the other 2 board members.
Yeah, yeah. I'm comfortable reading her report, and because we've worked with Jerry for a long time, and I think she's very, you know, that's her, you know, her understanding is like to see if something is truly worth preserving. So I trust Jerry, and I just think it is interesting that it has been downgraded since 2008 from a 50 to a 35. So that's a pretty strong indicator to me. But I am concerned that there's a, you know, that, you know, it's one more house that's going to be, you know, completely changed.
It's a prominent site. It's everybody knows the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I also realize that, this is the, this is the issue, on the ongoing issue here in Larkspur, is that we do have a desirable area and people want to have more livable houses. So
Yeah.
maybe this isn't the house to keep, unfortunately. Are there any other, is there anyone else in the waiting room or anyone else that needs to comment?
We have another hand up. I'm going to mute or take the Doyles off of our panelist site and return them back to participants first.
Good to meet you.
Thank you.
Right.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
Okay. All right, we have a hand up for 415-924-1402. I'm allowing you to talk, but you're on mute.
James Holmes.
There we go.
Larkspur. James, sorry, I must have messed up previously. James Holmes, Larkspur, former board member many years ago. This is the second Heritage Board meeting in a row where the issue is a proposed delisting of a resource. Those proposals used to be rare. It now seems that ratings are becoming less a definitive classification and more something to be challenged. Sometimes delisting certainly makes sense, as with the Rice Lane property at your last meeting.
Yeah.
Here, the argument for a downgrade is much less convincing, in part because it doesn't take sufficient account of the very considerations which played such a key part in your Rice Lane delisting, specifically lack of alteration in visibility. The Rice Lane basis of your decision was that the resource had been drastically altered. It also wasn't very visible and thus didn't contribute very significantly to the district. By contrast, here the resource is completely unaltered in the streetscape view, plus it occupies a very significant conspicuous corner in the Baltimore Park subdivision, so it contributes a lot more to the area. Now, as Kristen mentioned, the real basis for the delisting is the city's revised evaluation, and I'd like to go over that, if you can turn to it a bit, if I can. It follows the applicant's own report in your packet. There were two prior evaluations of number 20 Monte Vista, if I understand the documentation correctly, which gave it a B grade based on 50 points. The latest evaluation downgraded 3 items. Number 1, historical significance, went from 10 to 5. Number 2, style, went from 20 to 10. And number 4A, individual architectural setting, went from 10 to 5. 10 points were added for integrity setting for a revised total of 40 points, although for some reason the box at the bottom of the evaluation inaccurately says 35 points.
Mhm.
These downgrades weren't specifically explained in a narrative sense, and the report seems somewhat terse compared with many of the others that I've seen over the years, which usually have narration and relevant pages from Larkspur past and present. The only basis given is the brief comments in the box, which read, quote, style is quite common, numerous examples within this neighborhood, nothing distinguishable about this particular example, and not related to any family of historical significance, end quote. The comments have a rather dismissive tone, but more important, I would argue they're very debatable, to say the least. Taking them in order, the first one, common and numerous examples, that seems inaccurate. The first block of Monte Vista going down the street has none like this. The second block, where number 20 is, has one more, which is really more of a bracketed craftsman. The third block of Monte Vista has none. And the last block of Monte Vista has 2, one of which received a historical award from the board for restoration, and then there are two more with more Mediterranean and craftsman features. So the houses aren't common numerically. If, however, by common is taken to mean insignificant or inconsequential, then I'd ask you to consider some very significant short words on page 16 of the applicant's report. It says, the 1924 house is associated with craftsman bungalow architecture, which is briefly described in the section below. Here it goes. The American craftsman style is the quintessential house style of America. More popular and more replicated than most others, it is the sum of all that America is. It stands for simplicity, excellence, and utility, and implicitly in design, excellence in craftsmanship, and utility in its functionality. So that's what the applicant's report says. With regard, the second comment is that there's nothing really distinguishing about this example. But in fact, number 20 has almost all of the California Craftsman Bungalow features that are listed in the applicant's report on page 17. The city's prior evaluation, both of them I think, called number 20, quote, a classic example of a California bungalow, unquote, and added, quote, no significant alterations to the Monte Vista streetscape, unquote. That Larkspur Past and Present, the city's official history book on page 147, says that number 20 and the under bungalow on the street, quote, exemplify the understated California bungalow style, end quote. The style may be understated, but number 20 is by far, I believe, the most elaborate of the bungalows on Monte Vista, with two individually roofed bay windows, each with exposed eaves, a wide variety of ornamental multi-pane windows, and a French door opening onto what Larkspur Past and Present calls, quote, a spacious corner porch overlooking the intersection, page 147. Thus, the downgrades to evaluation items 2 and 4 don't really seem to fully recognize the resource in relation to the less elaborate examples elsewhere. The third evaluation comment, and last evaluation comment, is that number 20 is, quote, not related to any family of historical significance, end quote. However, Larkspur Past and Present on page 147 states of longtime resident George Hirely, quote, George, like his Swiss father before him, worked his entire career at the Niven Nursery, end quote, which the book calls, quote, a distinctive feature of central Larkspur, end quote, page 4. George's wife, Mildred, who grew up at number 20 Monte Vista and lived there until she died in 2016, was, according to the applicant's report, a nurse at a military base, and the report adds at page 11, quote, Mildred led an active life in the Bay Area, participated in many Larkspur functions, unquote. And Larkspur Past and Present notes her longtime residency at number 20, saying, quote, perhaps establishing a Larkspur record for Mildred for longevity in a single home, page 146. No, Washington didn't sleep at number 20, but arguably the evaluation somewhat undervalues those two lifelong Larkspur stalwarts. Finally, both the current and prior city evaluations gave 0 points for architect builder. That's evaluation item number 2. Presumably they didn't know who it was, and it wasn't researched for this evaluation. But there is strong evidence that the house was built by prominent Larkspur builder William Wegner, because what the applicant's report notes on page 17 as the, quote, large wooden vents, end quote, in the gable were exactly the same as what Larkspur past and present pictures and describes on page 154 as, quote, Wegner's trademark slant vents at the gable, end quote. Page 154 gives additional details about Wegner and the many roles he played in Larkspur history. So perhaps you could add at least 5 points for the builder. In sum, if you add back the downgrades based apparently on very debatable, rebuttable comments, plus 5 for the builder, the result would be 65 points, a very solid B, which I would argue is fully justified by the style, the lack of alterations, the visibility, and the longtime Larkspur family connection. Thank you for listening to these long comments, and I'd be happy to take any questions if you have them.
Thanks, James.
Thank you, James.
Anybody have any questions of James?
I don't know.
Okay, I'm gonna put James, lower his hand and take him off the permissions to talk. So perhaps if there's anyone else who'd like to speak, this would be your chance to raise your hand.
I just have one more question. Not that this is entirely relevant, but I'm just curious if you've spoken with some of the neighbors about changing the house and potential plans, if there's any feedback.
Are you asking the Doyles?
Yeah,
I'm gonna promote them to,
I mean, and to
they're
be
allowed
honest,
to talk, but they need to unmute themselves.
yeah. I mean, I understand that's more of a planning or design review question. That's not so much, I mean, that's not necessarily a relevant thing here, but I'm just curious.
Spencer and Susie, would you like to say anything?
Yes, can you hear us?
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you to the gentleman for those incredibly well-researched comments. I should have been more prepared, obviously, than I am. The only thing I'm not sure about, that rubbed me the wrong way was, I think it was built by actually Mr. Hurley himself. I think he built this house and the house across the street from us, but we'd have to do some research into that to find that out. So, but that aside, to address the board member's question, the neighbors have all been, the neighbors next door and behind have been told of our plans and have given thumbs up. The neighbors across the street just bought a house, so we haven't met them yet. And the neighbors directly across the street from us have given a thumbs up as well. So the homes that touch our property are so far very thumbs up. And you know, we consulted with our neighbor Scott Morgan, who used to sit on this. I believe he lives across the street in 3 Up, and he said we were going about this the right way, right? Like, he understands that this is a building that we feel isn't restorable, based on, you know, the report that we bought it under, and it's more about trying to design something new that's to the aesthetic that would please everybody within Larkspur, even in so as keeping existing you know, look and feel to a T. We'd be happy to do that. We love the look, we love the design. This is not what this is about. So yes, to answer the question succinctly, hopefully, neighbors touching us or our property are a thumbs up, and across the street is a thumbs up, but that's the only people we've talked about, because this is the first step to even having those conversations.
Okay.
I think the board's probably been wondering what I'm doing here. This is a late mail I forgot to mention from a past council member, Larry Chu, in support of the applicant's request to delist. I'll let you have some time to process that.
Is it on the screen or?
Can you not see it? I'm sharing my.
Oh, yeah, no, I see it. Okay.
Spencer, can I ask a question?
Mr. Doyle?
Of course.
So you said when you bought the house 5 years ago, the reports indicated that there was a lot of deferred maintenance. Have you found things that you didn't expect since buying it 5 years ago?
We've eliminated the rats. So they are no longer with us, unfortunately. I think that just the sheer amount of damage to the overall structure, the walls, the asbestos we were not aware of. So there's asbestos pipes below the house and inside the house that we've painted over. But I think more than anything, it's the permeability of the thing. Again, we have mold growing in my son's home and my son's room right now, and we had 12 leaks this weekend. That was after we put a $7,000 silicone sheet across it last year because we had about 25 leaks in the house prior to that. We thought it had gotten us through a year, but obviously it was a drought year last year, so we didn't have a lot of rain. This weekend, the silicone that was supposed to last 7 years lasted less than a year and a half. So I think more than anything, it's our concern with the amount of mold and black mold that's probably in the house at this point, which will obviously require complete and dry rot and stuff like that. I think the spirit of what we've done is, if you look at the way we bought it versus what it looks like today, I think that shows you the type of people we are and wanting to create something that is of architectural likability or significance, if you will. I think our desire to work with Jared Polsky, who is a longtime Larkspur architect, I think that was the reason we gelled with him, was because we said we wanted to create something that was special, especially because it sits in that prominent corner. The number of people that go by our house and wave to us on their way to school every morning, we love sitting out on that porch and waving to people. So it's something that I think that, you know, I don't know how to give you a promise to say that what I will work with, you know, Jared to design will be something that looks a lot, feels a lot like this bungalow style. And if you want me to put slats, those slats above a dormer, great. If you want me to preserve bay windows, we love them. We think that should be the aesthetic. If you want me to, you know, preserve a porch on the corner looking the same way it does, I will happily do that. But what I'm saying is that I can't restore what's broken. I can only redo it in a way that would make you pleased. I think and I don't know how to, I'll sign paperwork that says that, right? But like, I don't know how to, I think the best example of showing how much we care is look at the pictures when we bought it and look at the pictures now and tell me it doesn't look really, really awesome, right? A great looking little home, right? But that's kind of broken on the inside, right?
Again, I want to caution the board to try and make a decision based on anything the applicant says about a future application.
Yep.
Because that's really not a criteria
Right,
for whether or not the building should be on the inventory or not.
right.
And that's so fair. I don't mean to hijack it, Kristen, you're right. We feel that we used the historic, we feel we followed the process of the city. We hired a historical architect so that there was an unbiased and thorough, report for you to all review. And then we feel like we went through and used the rating system, and we were only a 50 out of 100 to begin with, and now it's down to a 40. You know, it's it seems like we're using your own system to basically help get to this agreement that maybe we could build something just as nice in this spot.
Well, it's really out of our hands once after tonight. I mean, honestly, the planning board and planning, if it comes to design review, they're the ones that are going to be deciding on all of your, your plans. I
Yeah,
mean, we're just looking at the house as it's rated today
yeah,
and deciding on whether or not it stays or disappears. That's what we're looking at.
yeah.
And we're basing it on, the information that very qualified architects have prepared. It's always a hard thing to decide on the fate of a property like this. I live in Palm Hill and I drive by that house many times during the week. And, I have very mixed feelings about it. I can't deny the numbers and the downgrading. And I really appreciate Mr. Holmes' sort of discussion on, the merits of the house. And, but at this moment, what we have is the scores, which were sort of marginal to begin with in 2008. Does anyone else have any comments they'd like to add, Carol or Rich or?
No,
I guess I would like to see some more information. I don't think we're ready to make a decision on this. If we had to today, I would say I don't want to delist it, but I think I'd like to hear more from Jerry. And I would like to hear an independent opinion about whether this house can be saved. I have to tell you, I have so many buildings in my own practice where people have said it's not savable, but they were saved, they were restored, and beautifully. So I just know I can't accept the fact that this place is a total loss.
So that would require, there are independent folks that will do that assessment for us out there. Do you have recommended folks that will conduct that type of an assessment?
Sure, there are. It would take a builder with historic experience dealing with older buildings, residential buildings, and they can do that for you.
Okay.
I think if that's the direction, we may need to have them come through the city, and the city will take deposits to cover the cost so that we can assure that it's an independent opinion.
Good.
Kristen,
Done
do you
this
know?
once before for 219 Hawthorne.
Pardon?
And I would love to dig up the original building inspection that we had when we bought it. I don't know if I can find it, but I'll look for it. Would that factor in at all to your decision, sir?
Not to me, no. A building inspector's opinion that the entire home is useless except for the foundation sounds like a toss out. So I'm not impressed by it. I would be impressed by a current assessment by someone who knows how to restore an old building.
Yeah, and we have seen some buildings come before the board that have been in way worse condition, actually,
Yeah.
that have been beautifully restored and salvaged.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it could be that it is cosmetically beautiful, but it's a total wreck inside. But I would like an independent opinion about that.
mhm.
I think that's totally fair. Let me ask this question. If it doesn't get delisted and we choose to restore it, do we come in front of this committee again, or do we just go to planning?
The process would be that you would apply for a planning application, and the first step in going forward toward public hearings would be to visit the board for recommendation. But the planning commission is the decision-making body.
Got it. So at that point, because we are not raising the property, the delisting discussion doesn't need to come in because we're restoring what is acknowledged to be property that is on the list. Is that
Yes,
accurate?
yes.
Yes.
Unless the proposed restoration project is found to undermine the integrity of the building in some way that doesn't meet the standards for rehabilitation of a historic resource.
Understood.
Jared has experience in dealing with this, though, and has successfully gone through this process, in my experience, several times now. So,
Okay.
Party over here. Okay, let's talk later, okay?
so the board needs to come to some kind of conclusion here. What do you want to do? You don't have to accept the reevaluation of this home. This is what your historic architect has presented. You can ask for her to be present and explain it better. You can ask for a reevaluation of the structural integrity to ensure that there isn't a reason that this building shouldn't be rated higher.
You know, I'm happy to, I would love to understand what would be the best for the people who are making the evaluation, right? I'll do it all, right? Whatever's recommended by you to get you guys to see our point of view on this is really on the table. So you tell me what will help you make that decision and I'll go get it done.
Well, Kirsten, I think your suggestion of having an independent party that look at the interior is really going to be helpful to us to make a decision.
Okay. I have removed Mr. Doyle's permissions to talk because I think the board needs to bring it now to the dais and have a discussion that no longer is a round robin system.
Okay.
Mhm.
I would make a motion along the lines of what you say, Kristen, that we,
But we're missing our chair, I think.
I'm here.
Oh,
Do you
are
not
you?
hear me?
Okay. Sorry.
we don't see
Can you hear
you.
me?
Hear you.
I'm here. I'm following. Do you see
Okay.
me?
No.
Sorry, my mistake.
That we need two things. One is a better explanation from Jerry Holland about the the scoring that she's given this, and request that the city arrange for an independent evaluation of the structure.
I concur.
Yeah, I do too. I think it would be, especially to hear from Jerry first to get more detail and maybe addressing the points that James Holmes brought up about the 3 specific areas where she had downgraded it. And I guess I have a question, Kristen. Do we have like a list of independent historic architects that, like a roster that we can consult with, or what would be the next step to bring in someone independent?
Well, do you want a historic architect to do another evaluation, or do you want a contractor with experience in, or a structural engineer, one of those two with experience in historic preservation to evaluate it? Because it sounds like you want to know how bad the condition of the structure is, right?
Right.
Well, I think it's a twofold question, honestly. I think even if the contractor said yes, I mean, as we heard, the foundation is probably pretty good, but even if the house was like in pristine condition, the fact remains that it's sitting here with the score sheet in our hands, and we have to evaluate it on a historic basis,
Mhm.
notwithstanding the condition.
Yep.
So I think that getting more detail from Jerry about the evaluation would probably be helpful. Maybe that would be a good place to just start.
We'll definitely have her attend the next meeting.
But it does seem like having a representative else, representing the Heritage Board to evaluate it, even beyond Jerry, might be something we look at. Because obviously everyone comes to these things with creating what their goals are. And I'd be interested in seeing some, possibly, depending on what Jerry says, an additional opinion on it.
Mhm. Okay, so I want to be sure I understand. You would like a second opinion on the historic evaluation, and you would like an inspection of the premises by somebody with a background in historic preservation and construction who can weigh in on the condition of the building itself, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Mhm.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I'm writing myself notes so I don't forget.
No, that's okay.
Okay, I'm gonna have to consult with the planning director and see how we can best proceed without this becoming too onerous. I may be getting
Right.
back to the board with an update of what I think we can do.
Okay,
Okay,
okay. Yeah, we will keep an open mind.
Right. And understand time is, I'm sure, sensitive to people.
Mhm.
all right. Okay, I think I don't have any more questions. Thanks.
Okay. So
Would
do we need
somebody
to make a motion?
to direct me specifically to do these things and continue the hearing?
I did make the motion.
I'm sorry. Did
Yeah.
someone second?
I'll
I'll
second.
second it.
Okay. Board Member Stork,
Aye.
Board Member Goldberg,
Aye.
and Chair Colhane.
Aye.
Okay. And let the record show that board members Gallant and Langto are absent.
I've got to go, folks, so I hope we can adjourn without me being present.
Is
Do
it
we
possible to have you just make a motion on the minutes so we have a quorum?
Yes.
I move to approve.
I second.
Okay. Board Member Stork,
Aye.
Board Member Goldberg,
Aye.
Chair Colhane.
Aye.
And let the motion show that with past 3 no nays and 2 absent, Board Member Gallant and Langto. Thank you, Rich.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Okay. Good night.
Okay, returning to the agenda. We had one last item on the business items. We have a request from Marilyn River, who has a small cost she incurred in
Yeah.
doing this for the board as a volunteer.
Yes.
And
Well,
she's
we
just
can
asking-
approve that.
Yeah, and everybody has a copy of it, correct?
Yes.
$43 or something.
Yes.
Mhm.
If you could make well, you've given me permission. I'll go ahead and request reimbursement for her.
Great.
Okay.
Okay. I
Okay,
want you
so-
to just keep in mind before you be too gallant in how to spend money is that we have a very tiny budget for the board. So we need to be very diligent in trying to not incur expenses for the board activities unless it's really important. Okay?
Understood.
Okay. I think that's it, unless you have any board member reports.
No, do we, I guess you will set up the next meeting date, which may be sooner than
Then
expected,
later,
depending
yeah,
on
it
Jerry's
looks like we'll be
schedule.
meeting again in November in order to resolve this.
Mhm.
Good, okay,
Okay,
great. I guess we are adjourned. I move to adjourn.
I second it.
all right. Well, thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you, Kristen.
You're welcome.
All right,
I'm going to close down the meeting now.
okay,
Thank you all.
bye.